And I will tell you, I've said it before, I went to a Donald Trump rally when I was campaigning in New Hampshire back in the winter of 23.
Yeah.
And I was met with handshakes and friendship and hospitality and decency.
Yeah, because you should be a Republican.
I should be a Republican.
I read that Elon Musk said that he would accept a position in your cabinet. Would that have to do with artificial intelligence?
So
if
Elon
you
and
chose
I
him?
have a great relationship. He's great. He is a totally unusual character. Do you know Elon at all?
I don't.
He's great. And he's smart. And we have to cherish our geniuses. We don't have too many of them, right? But he is a brilliant guy. And what he really would like to do is get involved in cutting some of the fat. And he does know how to do it. And he loves the country. It's just an amazing thing. We had a conversation the other day. You would know better than me, but I hear it had hundreds of millions of people. I heard it had the biggest audience that there's ever been. I mean, would you say that's a correct statement?
I would absolutely say
there's
that's
never been
correct.
anything even close. I heard 750 million people. I mean, numbers that are crazy. And yeah, he wants to be involved. Now, look, he's running big businesses and all that, so he can't really, I don't think he'd be for cabinet. I'd put him in the cabinet, absolutely, but I don't know how he could do that with all the things he's got going. But he can sort of, as the expression goes, consult with the country and give you some very good ideas. Like on AI, there's nobody knows more about it than Elon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big, big thing. And he said it's very important. I mean, it's very important for the country. If we don't do it, China's going to do it, or somebody else, but most likely China. And China is working right now to develop massive electricity, a flood of electricity, a massive flood of electricity. And we don't, because we have people that they're not even thinking about that.
Yeah.
And we have to win this election. This election November 5th will be the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country. Because if our country goes the wrong way with this election, I think this country is doomed.
Guys, I gotta tell you, I am feeling something special in the air, okay? I am feeling like the America First movement is about to get taken to a whole new level. And one of the reasons why I feel this way is because Trump is doing something very different than what he did in 2016. This is something I've talked about quite a bit on this channel, maybe a few years ago, okay? Because a lot of people criticize Trump for the personnel decisions that he made back in 2016 when he first was elected. Like, for example, filling his cabinet with neocons like John Bolton and others, okay? But people got to understand that Trump is not a politician, right? I mean, he made no politicians because he's probably bought and sold politicians like a lot of billionaires tend to do. But he, for the most part, wasn't a Washington guy, right? So I can understand why Trump did not complete the mission of draining the swamp and ridding the corruption out of Washington, which I'm not even sure if it's entirely possible to do that. But I think the reason why he didn't get it done the way he should have gotten it done is because he was being misled by the establishment Republican Party, right? He relied too much on the neocons and the establishment Republicans to put people in important places that weren't necessarily in line with the America First agenda. And this is a mistake that Trump has admitted that, hey, yeah, I made this mistake, but I'm going to fix this mistake in my next administration.
I didn't really know anybody in Washington. I was a New York person. I wasn't like a Washington, D.C. person. And all of a sudden I'm president and I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue with more police and motorcycles and military than I've ever seen before in my life. I said to my wife, do you believe this? I'm president. But I didn't know anybody in Washington. And I had to rely on people to give me names. And many were really good. I mean, Bob Lighthizer, I had great trade people. I had some great people. But I also picked people that, in retrospect, I wouldn't have picked. But now I know the smart ones, the dumb ones, the weak ones, the solid ones, the ones like you. I know the people. I know everybody, sort of like everybody. And we're going to have a great government. I didn't know. I had to rely on people I'd ask, I don't want to use names because I don't want to embarrass, they're not bad people, but I'd ask people that were rhinos who do you recommend for such and such a position? All important positions. And they'd recommend some people that were rhinos or something, or weak or not good.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, Trump is admitting that, hey, I made a mistake, which is something that is kind of rare for Trump, right? That's what a lot of people criticize Trump for, is not admitting when he made a mistake. But he's actually admitting that, yeah, I made some mistakes in regards to personnel decisions in my first administration. And it looks as if he's serious about making some changes in his next administration and picking more wisely in regards to who he surrounds himself with. Okay. And RFK just did an interview with Tucker in which he makes a major announcement about how he's been asked to be a part of the transition team to help Trump with his picks to help run the government in his next administration.
Corrupts the whole enterprise. So my last question, what happens now? You had this kind of amazing announcement with Donald Trump on Friday. It's now Monday, I think, which is 3 days ago. How do you spend from here until Election Day?
I'm going to work to get him elected. And I'm working with the campaign. We're working on policy issues together. I've been asked to go onto the transition team and, to help pick the people who will be running the government. And I'm looking forward to that.
So again, this is a huge announcement because it signals that Trump is saying, you know what, I'm going to bring in some other people who are basically anti-establishment at this point, right? Like, for example, a Tulsi or an RFK, and I'm going to surround myself with people who aren't just neocons and establishment Republicans that, led me astray in my first administration in regards to accomplishing the things that I wanted to get done, right? Never forget, it was the establishment Republicans that basically worked with Democrats in order to prevent Trump from getting the wall built the way that it should have been built, okay? They fought Trump tooth and nail on the wall, okay? So people can't forget these things. And as this new coalition forms, okay, of ex-Democrats, libertarians, conservatives, right? People from across the spectrum, classical liberals, it's not about what we disagree on. It's about what we agree on. What are the core problems? What are the core issues? What are the core policies that we can all get together and agree on that we can work towards solving during this next Trump administration? And that is what this unity coalition is all about.
And, President Trump, to his credit, put out a hand, shook his hand and said, let's do this. Let's engage on ideas that matter. Let's engage on policies that matter. We don't have to agree on everything. This is not us being absorbed into the Trump camp by any measure. This is a partnership. This is a meeting of the minds with strong boundaries and expectations.
What are the boundaries?
Well, I think the thing is we don't overlap perfectly, but we do overlap on 5 key things, and we got to stick to those 5 key things. That is free speech, very important. Anti-war, ending these endless wars we're in overseas, putting that money back into America, putting Americans first, really trying to figure out how to create stability in our foreign policy. Chronic health, obviously, this is the biggest one. We want families to know that they are going to be met with credible health care, honest healthcare, and no more censorship. That's a really, really big one. So as long as we stay within these core principles of this coalition, we're going to do great things, and I have great optimism.
2 concerns. One is just, something to note. The other one is something to chew on for the rest of our time. There's something to note is, the Republicans aren't talking about it now, but they always had as a signature move when it comes to health care, removing the ACA in favor of basically nothing. Right now, they've gotten quiet about it because it's become so unpopular as people have gotten more and more access to health care. But I don't know that Trump is anywhere near what Bobby and I have spoken about when it comes to access to health care and stuff. They want to privatize it in a way that is not necessarily going to be good for regular families. Give me a quick take on that.
Well, you know what we do agree on? We agree on farming. We agree on fresh food. We agree on clean water. We agree on school choice. We agree on the power of sunshine and getting kids outside being kids. And, you know, I guarantee you, Chris, that if we focus on just cleaning up our food supply, we're going to need a lot less dollars, especially government dollars, dedicated to healthcare.
I'm with you.
$4.6 trillion dollars right now.
Yeah, I love that answer. I love that answer so much because I think it really shows you guys what I'm talking about when I say, listen, we don't have to agree on everything, right? We don't have to agree on whether or not the United States should have socialized medicine, right? Because I personally don't want to pay for everybody else's healthcare, these progressive leftists who want to be fat and unhealthy, right? I really don't want to pay for that healthcare, okay? We don't have to agree on it. Okay, but what we can agree on is that, hey, you know, maybe we shouldn't have a sick care system. Maybe we should have a preventative care system where we prevent people from getting so sick in the first place, okay? These chronic diseases are relatively new because it is a product of the environment that has been created as our society has become more modern, okay, with more processed foods and things like that. That has caused Americans to live unhealthy lifestyles and to be obese. And along with that comes a lot of these problems that have strained the system, okay? And for all those people that want taxpayers to collectively pay for everybody's healthcare, you know, people who are not seniors, yeah, your argument might hold more weight if you actually took care of yourself, right? If you weren't fat and out of shape, okay, and disproportionately taking up the resources, then yeah, I mean, who knows, maybe that socialized medicine would be more affordable, okay? But as it stands right now, it's not affordable. So what matters is that, well, what can you do to try to bring down costs for everybody and to make this country healthy again, okay? What you can do is to deal with the core issues, the corruption that we have in big pharma, in agriculture, that is contributing to the problem. And maybe that is the middle ground that we can all agree on and work towards the ultimate goal of lowering the cost of healthcare for everybody. But it starts with preventing people from having to go to the hospital so much in the first place. Again, radical idea, okay? Radical idea. So what is happening with this coalition, guys, is that you have people that are now realizing that, listen, this is not a left versus right thing anymore, okay? This is not a Democrat versus Republican thing anymore. This is establishment versus anti-establishment. Pro-war versus anti-war. Capitalism versus communism.
It's like watching A Clockwork Orange. I'm like this, Vivek, watching what's coming out, whether it's raising the rate on corporate taxes or going up to, 45%, close to, on capital gains for certain individuals. It's a lot of populism, but most people that defend it say, she doesn't really mean it. It'll never happen.
Yeah, so that's the irony here, Joe. And first of all, I agree with my friends at the Washington Post who observed that if you don't want your opponent to tag you as a communist, then maybe your first policy should not be a bunch of price controls in the United States. We've seen price controls fail in every other major country that's tried it. Argentina, Venezuela, under Hugo Chavez, under Nicolas Maduro. The irony in Venezuela is that you actually saw undernourishment increase tenfold over the same period where they enacted price controls in the food industry, in the grocery industry. Yet that's exactly what they've proposed here. And I do think that the fact that this was her signature economic unveiling says a lot about where her vision actually is. To borrow Tim Walz's expression, Joe, if I may, it is just plain weird for them to focus even on the grocery sector if they were going to implement price controls, because this is a sector in which you look at the profit margins of Kroger or Albertsons. You're looking at 2%, 1% profit margins. I saw that interview that Elizabeth Warren did with you, and I respectfully disagree with her. But she even brought up examples like Kraft Heinz or Cal-Maine. The reality is their profit margins are lower today than they were in 2015 to 2016. So, yes, it is a just plain weird fixation.
America last versus America first. Lunacy versus common sense. And that is converting some people who are moderate, they're in the middle, maybe they're classically liberal, libertarian types, right? They're saying, okay, RFK has joined Trump. I like what I'm hearing. I like the fact that RFK is going to have some influence on Trump's administration. And hey, this might be the tipping point for me. I might just have to vote for Trump because the Democrat Party is way too radical.
Absolutely. Let me just be perfectly clear about this. I think the modern Democratic Party is an existential threat to the Republic. And although I am a Democrat, I've been a Democrat my whole life, the party that I see in front of me today is literally the inverse of the party I signed up for. This is now the party of war. This is the party of racism. This is the party of censorship. I don't recognize this party. There is no conceivable scenario in which I would vote for Kamala Harris. I just simply will not do it. Am I open to voting for Trump? I am. I'm especially open to it if he is partnered with Bobby Kennedy, because what that tells me is that my values, which are a much closer match for Bobby's, are represented in that administration. And that's really what I want. I want a coalition to redefine American politics because, frankly, we have a long-standing problem with corruption, which has now turned into something else with the modern Democratic Party. But we need to rethink the way we govern ourselves so that corruption is not the dominant force. And a coalition is the way we're going to do that.
Yeah, a coalition is how we're going to do that. A coalition is how we're going to protect free speech. A coalition is how we're going to protect meritocracy, law and order, strong borders. That's how we're going to protect our children. These are all things that we can agree on as people who believe in common sense, normal people who are not radicalized leftists, okay? So what you're saying is that Trump is embracing this, right? He's embracing this. You know what? Let me think outside the box. Let me surround myself with true diversity that we should all seek, right? Which is a diversity of problem solvers, right? And how they solve problems, how they think about the world. And this is a great thing, right? I'm actually getting goosebumps just thinking about it, okay? You talk about Trump, Tulsi, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK, Elon Musk, JD Vance, a whole bunch of other people as well, too, that are now on board with this new movement that is something that we've never seen in politics, okay? For as much as the left wants to talk about Kamala Harris and what's happened over there, there's nothing new happening with Kamala Harris, right? She's not really having an Obama moment, okay? It's completely manufactured. But what is happening right now with the America First movement is organic, okay? What you guys are saying is a realignment in American politics. This is something new, and I think that it's only going to get stronger moving forward into the future, and this is why. This is why we really have to win this election, because this is the start of the America First movement going to the next level, okay? The start of a movement that will return this country back to the core values that made this country great in the first place. And I am super excited about what's happening, guys. Everybody should be excited because this is the greatest American comeback story that we've ever seen in this country's history. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.